So, good afternoon. First of all, let me apologize for the delay in the webcast. It was perfect until the last few seconds, and then suddenly we had a small technical problem. So, apologies for that. My name is Alinga, and this is Barbara. And we are directors of the Center for Citizenship, Enterprise and Governance, who has brought to you this SER token sale. This is a first of a series of webinars and token meetings where we try to answer your questions, and in future we will try to make it in a more interactive way. But for now, what we've done is we've asked you to submit your questions. We've had around 25 questions that have filtered through us. We had a larger number, but about 25 that came through. And we will try to cover that in the next hour or so. We don't want to take up too much of your time, but we do want to address any issues that you have, and also talk about any ideas you have. Although we've kind of staged this like almost like an AGM, annual general meeting, it's not like that. The reality is we are a small outfit. We've had a very small ICO, which we have been successful in. And it's more about getting a rapport between us and you know, and also for you to understand some of the dynamics of what's going to happen in the future. And we are very open to ideas. We have a limited resource, but we have great ambitions. So let me start the Seratio Token Holders meeting by just reflecting on how it's gone since 15th of September when we started this. I have to say to you that it was an exhausting experience. As you can see, we're not spring chickens, so you know, I am been retired some time. My colleague Barbara has been retired a few years ago, and although we bring quite a lot of experience to this, the fact is that, you know, it's blockchain and cryptocurrency is much more of a younger, dynamic age range. And indeed, I was once described as the oldest man in blockchain, in cryptocurrency, which is not true. I hope it's not true. So we did 3 kind of big tours. We had initially a large tour of China, which we had to, of course, because of it became a blockchain tour because of the laws that changed in China. We did 4 cities there, and we also signed an agreement with Chengdu UESTC University. This is the biggest blockchain university in China. We had our colleague Mariam, who may be on the oh no, she's on a plane right now, and she did a tour to Moldova, to Mumbai, to Moscow, to New York, to Dubai. Dubai, did I say Dubai? Yes, correct. And she's right now on her way to a conference that we're involved in New York for Friday with Fordham University. And then my colleague Barbara and I, Barbara is the chief executive, I'm the chair, we covered a lot of Europe, and we did certainly many trips to Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Austria, Germany, and it has been successful. I'm very happy to say you would have seen our announcements yesterday, where we have we've issued around 31 million tokens ready to put into wallets, and that's what we've managed to audit so far. There's some other investments coming through, which we haven't managed to verify yet, and we cannot include until we verify. So what have we learned? And some of the experiences that we've had. I'll give you some indications. During this period, we had 3 attempts at hacking into our site, big cluster attacks, and none were successful, thankfully. And but we are continuously aware of the challenges there. We had, during this period, we had investments that range from £50, small, to, I guess, larger amounts, much larger amounts, £500,000 upwards. But generally speaking, everyone who's invested is investing in two things. One is they believe in the vision that we're trying to create, the values-driven vision that we're trying to create for the world. And secondly, they believe that their token investment will raise in its value, and it will trade as a good, solid cryptocurrency. And it's one of those two reasons, I think. Would you say that's correct?
Yeah, I'd say that's correct. I mean, really interesting is the fact that we've had so many token holders who become first-time crypto users. So we deliberately opened transfers in from the bank account, which has allowed those first-time involvement into crypto land, and that's really nice to see.
Okay, so I guess the questions are now to do with what we want to do going forward. Let's give you a fire and glass, Barbara, to kind of tell you what will happen in the next few months, and then I'll continue after that.
Hi, afternoon everybody, or good morning or good evening, depending on where you are in the world, or when you may be listening to this playback. So next steps, we've got a couple of key strategic aims. Obviously, step one is to deliver on all of our promises. So you will see our timetable already marked out in the white paper, and we will be delivering to the time frame there, absolutely on the dot. So you will get the tokens in the wallet, you will get the microshares on time, etc., etc. We will absolutely deliver on our promises. But it's much more than that, of course. This is not about just an ICO fundraise. It's about creating a new fundamental structure and using the power of cryptocurrency and blockchain to create a new paradigm of currency and transactions, and remember that intangible layer. So we also want to, we're not happy to just leave it as a small community of what we've already attracted, both existing crypto users and our newfound family, but to expand that. And part of that is a very exciting pipeline of the alternative coins that we talked about during the campaign and are now coming through. So as you know, we already had some deals with Women's Coin, with Student Coin, with City Coin, etc., etc. And as part of our global tour, we even had T-shirts. It's on the back, available now. So as part of that global tour and the acceleration of that message around the world, we've attracted some really interesting new partners. And we're in negotiations with all of those now. So what does that mean for you as a token holder? Ultimately, the aim will be to increase the market size, and we're looking at that token sale price to maintain the value of the token, and over time to grow that. So this market, it will all be about the size of the transaction flow and the capitalization. So new partners that come to us as part of that, we already have the faith coin in the form of Islam, and you think about the size of the market there, 1.9 billion Muslims in the world. We've also been approached for a black coin, predominantly looking at structural infrastructure and that acceleration jump of potential that the African continent has as a whole. Green coin, looking at an environmental play. It's these things have got massive marketplaces behind them. And as Alinga said at the beginning, they're not coming to us because we can do cryptocurrency, because we can do an ICO. They're interested in that value layer, that intangible measurement that goes through every part of our work. and I'm really excited about the questions that you guys have sent in, because it all plays to the same thing and the same theme, and we'll go through some of the detail of that. So, you know, the message that I want to leave you with as part of this section is just that there is a very healthy and very, very large pipeline of new coins which will all go to grow our marketplace and to grow our prominence. And you'll see then the Seratio Token taking its rightful place in the markets. So we've got, we're already on one exchange, and the tokens aren't even minted yet. We've had promises from some of our advisors that they want to see us on 40 exchanges, and they will be helping us to achieve that. Our internal target is 3 exchanges by the time the coins are minted. And so you see there's some way to go in terms of that global positioning. But you know, coins will be ready for and available for exchange day one, because we're already on one exchange.
So it's kind of worth pointing out that in the kind of in the landscape of ICOs, and it's become a problematic area, as we know. You know, still we would say 70 to 80% of that industry is in a difficult territory. Some spurious investments, some questionable use of the money that's been raised, and a lot of mistrust has gone on. Even during this period that we did this, 2 other ICOs attempted to launch in the UK during this period, and both have actually not achieved, and one is giving its money back, and the other one did a pre-ICO and now has stopped, and is not. It was not. The pre-ICO was not successful. So we remain, I would say to you, you know, at our target of only a small ICO, we remain at the Rolls-Royce end of cryptocurrency, which is not going for the big numbers, the big volumes. We have modest requirements for money, but we are quite prestigious in the way we do things, and the brands that we're dealing with, that Barbara's, you know, talking about, and the universities and so on, and are pretty well exclusive brands. So we couldn't take a risk-based approach to our initial coin offering. Sorry, Barbara.
That's okay. So just to let you know that there's again some real movement. The women's coin is going for soft launch on Friday in New York. A big conference happening there. And that's where women's coin will be open to the world. You can already see they've got their website, womenscoin.com, and you can see on there number 8 of our white paper series, and what women's coin stands for, and the aims of that foundation that sits behind that. Student coins similarly are ready to go, and you can see there's an accelerating position to get these things up and going, and taking advantage of all of the learning and the exciting place that this marketplace creates. So other news in terms of where we position ourselves throughout the world. As you know, it's important for us to take a global perspective. We partner with institutions around the world to make sure that that's happening, and our latest office is to be opened in Switzerland, within the heart of the crypto valley there in Zug, and that's going to be happening across the next few weeks to officially launch that, and we'll be sending you information as that becomes clearer and the actual address can be shared.
Okay, all right, and we have signed certain heads, but not ready to announce offices in Moscow as well. We already have in New York and in Shanghai, and in Kochi in India. So it is a global proposition, and a lot of these coins we are hoping to launch. Some of these coins, I should say, are anticipated to launch in the next 3 months. So this is a token with utility. This isn't a token just to sit on and wait for it to rise. There has to be a reason for it. It has to increase in price. But secondly, it has to do something. And some of the products that Barbara mentioned are actually tokens which have utility, which will function. It's, I guess, worth now talking about a bit more longer term. And we're very excited by this. This is how excited a 57-year-old looks, I'm sorry. But we are excited by this. So one of our papers we launched in the middle of the ICO was our seventh paper with a colleague called John Runford on microshares. The microshare is that second token which represents non-financial value. It is effectively what we've always, it distinguishes us from a normal financial cryptocurrency. And we launched this paper not as a finished product, but as a product that people can debate about, as all our white papers, because we are open source and we remain open source in everything we do. And one of the exciting areas that has already landed on us, and we hope to announce it before Christmas, will be the launch of microshares on its own separate trading platform as a separate token. And we're talking about a trading platform which does things like diamonds and land and gold and futures and so on. And they have in principle accepted the microshare as an asset to be traded. This is big news. We don't believe, of course, it may necessarily immediately happen, and we're looking to launch it in April next year, formally on that platform, because we have to go through quite a lot of regulatory due diligence and preparation for it. But at a very high level, it is trading social value, it is trading love for diamonds, for gold. And it's conceptually where we always wanted to be. We consider this to be like a beachhead of our attempt to bring non-financial and intangible soft values to be captured and to be transacted. Of course, in reality, it is not about trading love for gold. In reality, what it is saying that these tokens, which we are going to reward all our token holders with, and which will be earned and traded, means it will have actual value in itself, and we'll be able to exchange it for other hard financial assets. This is a strategically very, very important point. Again, we've arrived at a lot earlier than we anticipated. And so look out for that. And I think we'll be making that announcement definitely before Christmas, maybe a Christmas gift to our token holders. May I now go to your questions? We've had, about 25 odd questions. Not odd questions, but great questions. Some of them are quite esoteric, but we haven't got time to answer everything. We've chosen, let me see now, we'll try and answer 5 to 10 of them, and we'll try and answer the rest online, when there is time to do that. You have to forgive us that we already have other tight schedules that are impinging on this meeting. So Barbara, over to you.
Okay, so just to let you guys know, I haven't shared these questions yet, all of them with Alingo. He doesn't know which ones I've shortlisted, so we shall see how he answers. And I will start with a fun one to begin with. This is my personal favourite. So one of you guys has submitted just a suggestion for a name for any investors in the Seratio or the Seratio program and so on. And I thought of the name Seratians. So think Spartans, think Martians, whichever one you want. However, we don't come up with the best names, so this is going to be thrown back out there to you guys to say, what should we call ourselves as an investor group? What should we call ourselves of the movement that sits behind this? If you can come up with something better than Seratians, which I hope you can, then we'd love to hear from you. So moving on to a more perhaps a more serious question, which I shall. Let's do the provocative one. So I always, if it says I've got a provocative question, that was always going to get my attention first of all. So it talks about, and thank you to the supplier of this. We'll be announcing the winners, by the way, after this and awarding you with the tokens as promised. But for the purposes of this call, there's some really useful questions that have been prompted here. And it was an example about the psychology test, which is called the Robber's Cave, which basically says when you put two groups of people together, they will automatically close ranks and be in conflict with each other. Does our coin create closed ranks and smaller, diversified and conflicting communities? And is that a good idea?
Okay. So I have to say this is not a new question that I've heard, and I think it's a very correct thing to ask. The reality is people can say that the cryptocurrencies and having lots of cryptocurrencies with different value sets is actually not uniting the world, is actually splitting the world and can produce conflict. And we think that is a real issue that we've got to be very careful about and very aware of. But the reality is we all carry many sets of values in us. Each of us carries values which can be conflicting. You know, I have a small holding with animals, but I don't like dogs. Okay, so just because I have one set of values doesn't necessarily mean I haven't carry all the value sets. And so in our wallet, just like in your wallet, in your normal wallet, you have many credit cards, possibly, and many different cards that represent different things for you. In our Seratio wallet, crypto wallet, you will have several coins, several tokens, which represents all aspects of you. Now, my kind of response, and we recently submitted in a global competition about what is it, infrastructure to replace the United Nations. We were asked to do that. And we recently said, we'd rather people fight in the streets, not fight in the streets, I apologize, and fight in the forex exchanges with their sets of values. So if I have a token which can reflect me, which can also give me a vote on that issue, which is aligned to my values, it represents me, and I do not think it's the same as saying, because I belong to this group, I am going to conflict with other people. It is just saying this represents my values. Just like, already we are in Facebook mode where we have value sets. What do you think?
Yeah, it's we can't offer a product that brings world peace automatically, but it's what we found in our research when we look at values and community groups and the cohesion of those, the aspect of having a voice, the aspect of being able to demonstrate and be heard is very, very clear in those groups as a need. And so what we're saying with each of these smaller community groups that come with their own currency is that gives them a voice, that gives them access. It shows the financial value and the non-financial value of that community. And as we know, all people have goodness in them, and we've got to recognise our differences, not try and be bland and say that this is the one coin for everybody. You've got to recognise that there are different value sets and embrace those to make it a reality.
Okay, next question, please.
Okay, a question about the future. This is I'll go through a different tack altogether. Desalination plants on the coast of Africa. So a lot of you have come to us with very aspirational, very forward-looking ambitions for good projects and for doing good work. And indeed, that's what drives a number of our staff internally. So this is an idea about a coin which allows the funding of seawater desalination to make seawater drinkable for use on agricultural crops, etc. They've quoted Africa, but think anywhere where there is a water shortage and the needs of funds. And we've looked at a number of different applications for this. Some of them very commercial, some of them from a banking perspective, and a lot of them from an NGO, from a foundation, from a charitable angle, and how to use this. And basically, a coin that has confidence or backing creates what I call local quantitative easing. You can effectively use the money to fund the project, and also use the coin as part of that funding, either through a supply chain or for a distribution and so on. So yes, that's absolutely in our line of sight, and that will be brought to the party by partner groups. It's not something that CCEG will do itself, but we will enable that through the structure, through the blockchain, through the use of the coin. And ultimately, of course, wherever there is confidence in the SER token, you as a token holder will be benefiting from that.
Yes, it's worth saying that none of the coins, of course Seratio Token came out of us, but none of the dependent coins that are coming out on our platform are, none of them are just from us. We don't own any of those, and they're all commissioned from outside by, where we look for are vibrant, proactive, transactable, cohesive communities. Like, Black Coin, it represents 1 billion people in Africa. Women's Coin is 3.5 billion women in the world. So the exciting, the stuff about Student Coin or EduCoin, that I honestly don't know the statistics right now about how many students there are in the world or educational environment, but it must be large. So we're into these very large, vibrant communities. And for water, we have 3 different people come to approach us right at the moment. Large, I have to tell you, for one water token. One is a solution around rain control and management, and another more environmentally driven. But the fact is that we can all do. You can go without food for some time. You can go without shelter and fire for some time, but none of us can go without water, because that is an enormous community which we all resonate with quickly. Right now, we have, by the end of today, we will have 6 of our staff and representatives in New York, and one of the meetings I know is with a water representation of a large NGO that's World Global, who've been talking to us since 5 months now about a water token. And we hope to kind of finalize that as well. So I think, it's always hard not to go too wide, that is meaningless, and too specific, where it's so narrow that you're not going to get the large, vibrant communities, because it's the large, vibrant communities that will enable this thing to happen, not just niche areas. Next.
Great, thank you. So something that we've been asked throughout the programme, when will we develop the Seratio app for Android? It doesn't say anything about Apple here, which is interesting. Another sign of our following. So when will we deliver an app?
Okay. So one of our big programs we're starting now, and in fact we're going to put it on a website. I should have done it, I'll be honest, I should have done it about 2 weeks ago. I promised it to start, but I failed to deliver on that. It was just too busy. It's about on an AI bot that will sit on a mobile phone. We're all used to things like Alexa and Siri and Cortana, and if you own a Samsung, Bixby, and so on. These are more sentient AIs that will actually not just tell you the weather, but are a partner to you going forward. This is absolutely critical to mass adoption. It's a bot and a wallet with the bot attached to it that represents not all just captures our values, but actually can tokenize it and decide how we spend it, where we spend it, and help us, in all kinds of areas. So that is going to go live. We've got a draft of the website or the tab on. It'll be going live on the website www.bisgit.com, which is .org, which is our Blockchain Alliance for Good initiative. So it's not just going to be Android. It may be Android to begin with. I personally never use Apple, I have to say.
Indeed. So, back to something that looks at, again, our holistic values. Can the Seratio token be used to track utilisation of money donated, for example, to a not-for-profit organisation?
Okay, I think not only can it be used for that, it can actually be used for ensuring the transaction achieves the impact. So as I'm sure many of you know, in the blockchain there are 4 layers in blockchain. There's the first layer, which is the data layer, whatever asset, whether it's non-financial or financial. There's a protocol layer, there's a smart contract, and there's a governance layer. This is about having a smart contract that says, especially people like World Bank and UNDP, United Nations, and International Development Bank, having a smart contract where it says this money will not be transacted to the NGO unless the impact is achieved. Our history is that we have, since 2011, so we're not a newbie foundation, that since 2011 we have been measuring and capturing value. We have non-financial value. We have been digitizing value. We turn sentiment into financial value, and we use fast data. We do it in under 10 seconds. With blockchain, which is the great transactional piece, we now can transact it based on rules. So a lot of the large NGOs are very excited, and this blockchain conference happening on a Friday in Manhattan with a lot of our colleagues there. We have 3 different places where we're representing and talking, speaking. It's about where the project is not the money will not transact to the NGO unless the impact is also achieved. And one of the projects we're doing with Fordham University is actually on Yemen, and the United, I believe, with some of the largest NGOs. So very much you cannot just track it, but you can make a rule that we don't waste that money.
Yeah, it's been surprising and in some cases quite shocking, the lack of impact measurement within some of these organisations, and so the ability to make that change on a scale play is a very exciting prospect. So thank you for that question. Okay, a more technical question about the value at the evaluation score. So under the heading of transparency, since the social learning score will be evaluated by the Seratio platform, how can we be sure that you're evaluating the score correctly?
Okay. So it's important to understand that social earnings ratio was developed and has a life of its own in other sectors. We do a lot of underpinning of legal frameworks around social value and modern slavery and so on. But in the blockchain context, you need to have distributed proof of value, not just when one party. We cannot just say, we have said this is a value, that is it. So all we're doing in the context of our Seratio token is using the SE ratio as a way to give a simple number index attribute to a set of communities that's dynamic and translates itself into microshares. So in other words, if you imagine there are around 2,000 different non-financial value metrics out there, and actually they're all correct. There's no wrong metrics, they all just contain different things. What our speciality is to boil that down into a simple metric number, because the blockchain cannot contain much data. The Ethereum blockchain, you have time and date of the transaction, you have the value of the transaction, who it's from and where it's to, is the hash, and it's anonymous. So and you can't have loads of data that contributes to that, but what you can do is a single number representation, which is the corollary to the price earnings ratio, is the social earnings ratio. So if outside blockchain, we consistently, when we're called up to defend our scores, and we've never lost, I have to tell you this, is we say it's not a question of is it right, is it the correct answer? We say it's consistent, and we do it the same way with everyone, and it's totally objective. We cannot game it. This is very important. In the context of blockchain, it's actually taking many people's different kind of metrics, having a distributed form of agreeing that that's a value, and then using SE ratio simply to place it on the blockchain. So no, we don't make the decision. Initially, I have to say, in this next 9 months, before we release the platform in September, we will be using SE as as an experiment using our own SE metrics. But in the next 9 months, we'll be allowing other metrics to come on board, because that is when we have adoption.
Yeah, and as part of that, we describe a translation tool. So we don't try and say all of the different measures in the world, but we will translate them so that it will be consistent across the piece. We've got time for...
Yes, we have. I've been told that my knee is hitting the table and trembling the table. I'm sorry. I'm just looking at the moment because I seem to have a halo of yellow around me, and Barbara's got red behind her. But anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
One final question then. I've lost it now. Oh yes, it's the banking one, which I will answer myself. So we've been asked, how can we solve the problem of the world's unbanked? There are hundreds of thousands of citizens of the world that don't have bank accounts. How do we bring down the banks and make this a properly decentralized system? So coming from the banking system myself, that's not an easy task. But I've been overwhelmed by the number of individuals that I've talked to that talk about, how much does it cost me to send money back to my mum, dad, sister, uncle, niece, whatever. That peer-to-peer, cross-border transaction. And we've had a number of our partner companies that have talked about, the funding from one continent to another, and the support of families and history and heritage, and all the difficulties of that cross-border positioning. I think that's where this will grow from, and it's an interesting development, and great to be able to give individuals both the surety and the transaction capability to make that happen. So we're not going to bring the banks down overnight. That's just not going to happen. But however, the decentralized nature of this is such an important step change in how we might start to operate that. So yeah, watch this space. It's very interesting. So we're about out of time. We've promised to do this again. Do continue to write to us and give us your questions and your ideas and your suggestions of how you want to make this work, and we promise we'll make it more interactive next time.
Absolutely. I believe we may have scheduled this originally for 2 hours. We're happy to go on for 2 hours, but regrettably there's a lot of interest in what we do now. We are demanded everywhere, and I have to rush to London by train in the next 5 minutes, and the train station's opposite. So we're going to have to stop at this point to ensure that we get the opportunities and deliver on our promises to you, and we'll do our very best. We just want to thank you for all your kindness and for your investments. We absolutely appreciate it. There's a lot of people here, poor people, who've never even been paid salaries, so they're going to be happy to at least have something modest. But we're on a mission. We love it that you support us, and we know we're accountable as well. So thank you very much. Have a great day yourselves. Take care. Bye-bye.